Today in my mini-series Living and Working Abroad, we're gonna talk about Vietnam, coming right up. Hey, what's cooking guys? Marcel here again from Slamming It Out. Thank you for watching my video, and today I have a special country on my list and it's called Vietnam. Vietnam is a country in Southeast Asia with around 90 million people who live there, and it is really one of the most beautiful countries in Southeast Asia. I mean, they are all beautiful. All these Southeast Asian countries, they have their own distinct qualities and sites and everything. Vietnam for me is special because I worked there about 10 years ago. I took up my first executive chef position in a 5-star hotel, so that's why it is something special for me. The country is something special for me, but also I rediscovered Vietnam last year and traveled twice to the southern part of the country. And today in this video I will share a little about Vietnam, its people, the culture, and of course the food. The culture of Vietnam is partly also influenced by Chinese culture. You can see that when they celebrate their so-called Tet Festival. The Tet Festival is nothing, or it is similar, or it's the equivalent to the Chinese New Year. And also their religion is influenced by Chinese because the Vietnamese are mainly Buddhist people, but you also have churches there. The capital city is Hanoi. It's in the northern part of the country. And this is where I also worked in Hanoi for 1 year from 2010 to 2011, as mentioned in my first capacity of executive chef. That was a very exciting time. At the time, Vietnam was still kind of developing. It is still developing today, but the hospitality industry in Vietnam at the time, 10 years ago, was just developing. Now these days you have many more hotels and resort hotels and city hotels and all these kind of things built up already. More hotels are being built as we speak. I just traveled to Nha Trang, or Nha Trang as the locals call it, in southern Vietnam last year, and I could see with my own eyes how many projects are still under development. They are building up resorts, hotel left, right and center. So Vietnam, I think, has a great future ahead, hopefully, after the current situation which we are now currently experiencing. But during the past 10 years, Vietnam has seen a tremendous boom in hospitality and the hospitality industry, which is really good to see. But I stayed in Hanoi, and Hanoi is just one big city with a lot of motorbikes. It's also a rather dirty city because of the air pollution. The summers can get very hot with up to like 45 degrees Celsius. During the winter time it can get really cool, almost cold, and you need a jacket. I think temperatures can fall below 10 degrees. So this is then a little bit an uncomfortable time. I like the Vietnamese people because they are hardworking and very disciplined. This is what I have noticed when I started to work in Hanoi, that the mentality of the Vietnamese is a little bit different than compared to other Southeast Asian nations, which is okay, nothing wrong with that, but it appealed to me and I liked their sense of discipline and order. The only problem was and still is today the level of English. As far as I know, Vietnamese people, they study English in school since very early grades, but since they barely practice it, of course, they don't speak it very well. And this is always a challenge. It was a challenge when I was working 10 years ago in Vietnam, and it is still a challenge today. You will notice that as soon as you travel to Vietnam. My assistant at the time in the kitchen, I remember he spoke some English, so we communicated and he translated all the information to my kitchen staff. But when I had to communicate directly to other rank and file stuff, I remember it was a challenge to to get my things across. That's true. I was talking about Hanoi, which is obviously a very big city with millions of Vietnamese inhabitants and probably some foreigners. This is a big city. You have a lot of traffic there. But I traveled to the southern part of Vietnam last year, and I deliberately wanted to live in a Vietnamese neighborhood. I didn't spend my time in a 5-star hotel because I wanted to live among the people. I wanted to get to know the people, and I lived in a neighborhood, and it was very interesting to see how clean everything is over there. The people are really cute and keeping their neighborhood clean. They're wiping the streets in the early morning hours. Also, they have the habit to keep their front doors open. So Vietnamese people, they live in houses. Yeah, sometimes a few families are sharing the same house. They have their flats, but what they usually do, especially in the evening hours, when you pass by and you walk by, you can look into their living rooms, and they are sitting there watching TV or having dinner, and you really can see and notice and witness how clean their living room is. The floor is so clean and shiny. You can literally eat from the floor. Vietnamese people are very orderly people. This is what I noticed, and this is what I really like. So nothing is flying around on the streets. This is really something I noticed and that I was glad to see. And this is again something what is different to other Southeast Asian countries where it is a little bit more messy. So I spent 1 year as an executive chef in Hanoi. That was a great opportunity for me to further improve my leadership skills and everything. And working in Vietnam for the first time in an executive chef role is challenging. It was challenging because of communication problems, and I was nervous. I was not so confident and not so competent as I am now, or at least I am feeling now. So that was a great learning experience for me. So let's talk a little bit about Vietnamese cuisine. Vietnamese cuisine is indeed considered one of the healthiest cuisine on the entire planet. This is due to the fact that they use less oil, little dairy products, and also less sugar. And typical ingredients in Vietnamese cuisine, and this is what you can find a lot, is shrimp paste and the famous stinky, smelly fish sauce. The fish sauce has a very distinct smell and odor, and we Western people, when we get in touch with this, we kind of shy away from it because of this strong smell and odor. But it is very, very common in Vietnamese cuisine, and after a while of enjoying this food, you will get used to it eventually. But it is an essential ingredient in Vietnamese cuisine. One very, very interesting thing you will notice when you travel to Vietnam, and it doesn't matter whether you travel to Hanoi in the north or to Ho Chi Minh City in the south or to Da Nang or to Nha Trang or to any other village or city, is when you walk down the streets and you feel a little bit hungry, you will see all these little street stalls there. You cannot say that they are restaurants, but this is very, very nicely arranged, very cute. These little baby chairs, these plastic chairs, they are arranged on the sidewalk, and then there's a little stall put up there where they serve noodle soups and other kind of stuff, and then you pay maybe $1.30, and you get a big fat bowl of hot noodles, any kind of noodle soups they serve, and then you sit down on these baby chairs. Was always an experience for me because I'm a very tall guy, and then I have to sit down on these baby chairs. But the whole atmosphere, sitting on a sidewalk with a very affordable piece of meal, and then left and right the motorbikes are passing by and making noise. So that's a very typical and unique Vietnamese experience you definitely need to try when you are in Vietnam. Also, what you have to definitely visit when you are in Vietnam are the legendary wet markets. this is really something you have to see. You certainly can visit these wet markets also in other countries like China, Cambodia probably. I've never been to Cambodia, but I can assume that you can find also wet markets over there. But the Vietnamese wet markets, they are legendary because it is really what you can see on other videos or even on TV. This is where Vietnamese people normally buy their stuff, and the big wet markets, they are packed with people. They are very big and you can literally buy anything you want: fruits, vegetables, birds, animals, even frogs. I even remember having seen snakes for sale. I'm not sure, but yeah, this is like it is in Southeast Asia. These wet markets are always an experience, especially for Western people and for me as a chef anyway. When I traveled to Vietnam last year, I was only a tourist. I didn't work, but you know, you can buy your food very cheaply. You don't need to spend much money. So I always went to the wet markets and made a very good bargain, and you should too. What do I like about Vietnam? Definitely the food, the people and the country. As mentioned already, it's a beautiful country and I recommend to everybody to put Vietnam on your list. Yeah, take at least 2 weeks, travel the country. Even for me, Vietnam is still on my so-called bucket list. Even I've traveled there a few times last year and I have not even seen probably 5% of the country. The northern part is rather cool during certain months, like probably from October to February or March. But the southern part of Vietnam is always a tropical climate. So if you like beaches, if you like sunshine like me, if you like blue sky, and if you like less people, then Vietnam is definitely the place to go. Like for me, and there are many other places in the northern part of Vietnam, there are more mountains, and what I've heard from other peoples and other travelers is definitely Vietnam is definitely worth traveling around. Get to know the culture, get to know the people, try the excellent Vietnamese food, and it's gonna be a great experience. And I mentioned it already, the other great thing about Vietnam is the food. Yeah, fresh, healthy and very affordable compared to other Asian countries. I can confirm this. The food is more affordable. Other travelers I talked to who, for example, traveled to Cambodia, for example, they said even the food in Cambodia is more expensive than in Vietnam. And I've traveled to Thailand. I can confirm Thailand is way more expensive in certain areas and tourist destinations like Phuket. The food is way more expensive than in Vietnam. That's the good thing in Vietnam: fresh and affordable food. Speaking of food, so you want to know what is my favorite Vietnamese food? Definitely pho ga, the world famous chicken noodle soup. And then of course one of my personal favorites is also the Vietnamese spring rolls, and they come either vegetarian or with pork, with shrimps. I don't remember with what other items you can prepare them, but they are available vegetarian, with shrimps and with pork. I remember we prepared them in our hotel in Hanoi, and they come with the famous fish sauce. Another famous item which is actually very tasty is the banh mi or banh mi. This is a French baguette which they cut open and they put all kinds of ingredients inside: meat and lettuce and tomatoes and other kinds of things. There are thousands of different banh mi recipes. And I think this dish is kind of a fusion dish because they use French baguette, and Vietnam, as you might know, used to be a French colony. So this is also what I forgot to mention. The Vietnamese cuisine is also, of course, influenced by French culture, French food and French ingredients. Definitely, yes. Is there anything I don't like about Vietnam? Yeah, there is one thing, and this is the motorbikes. I have nothing against motorbikes, but when I was in Hanoi, when I lived there, It really got on my nerves. This is that was one thing which I couldn't really stand. Hanoi is a big city and the roads are wider and it is difficult to pass the streets or to cross the streets, because they have traffic lights. But I mean, at the time, 10 years ago, it was the case. I don't know how it is now, but I can assume that it's still the same thing. So the motorbikes are just going and going and going. You have traffic lights, yeah, they stop, but sometimes they don't stop. And it's more like a chaos than a structured and organized thing, the traffic in Vietnam. When you come to smaller cities, it's a little bit different, but you always have to watch out. And when you cross the roads, you always have to turn left and you have to turn right and make sure that you are safe. Normally the motorcycle drivers, they also watch out and they would go left and right. It's a little bit different. It's in Southeast Asian country, a different culture. It is not so strictly organized, let's say, like in Germany, but it was rather the fact that the pollution was so high and the noise, which I didn't really like when I was there. What did I learn about Vietnam? That's actually a good question. I was thinking about it and I thought what to say here, and I'm pretty sure I learned a lot, about culture, food and people. I mentioned that already, but I think what you will learn when you come to Vietnam, either as a tourist or even as an expat, if you start to work there or gonna live there for a while, then you probably, if you are somebody who wakes up late, then I hope you will learn to wake up early, because Vietnamese people are early birds. They wake up very early, they get busy very early. Very similar to other Southeast Asian nations and people and cultures. But in Vietnam, it's also very evident. So by 6 a.m. in the morning, you can see, if you stay on the beach, if you live in Nha Trang or in Da Nang, you will see a lot of people on the beach exercising, working out. They are busy selling their street food, their breakfast. So for me, I'm an early bird, therefore I like it. I like when there is activity in the morning and people are working out, and I hope when you go there, you probably also will learn to wake up a little bit early. Do I recommend Vietnam? Definitely yes, for the reasons I already mentioned in my video, and I'm looking forward to hopefully travel back to Vietnam soon. I have friends over there. I want to see the country again, especially I want to go back to Nha Trang, which is a place which is now really close to my heart. It is a city which I can recommend you visit. It is a coastal city right on the South China Sea. It has the coast, the South China Sea. You have beautiful beaches, you have mountains. The city is not so crowded. You have a lot of Russian tourists there, if you don't mind. You have also a lot of Chinese tourists there. You used to have these tourists, but if I can recommend one place, then it is definitely Nha Trang. Alright guys, that's it for today. I hope you like this little introduction and experience sharing about Vietnam. If I have forgotten something, then please let me know in the comment sections below. Otherwise, if you like this video, then please give me a thumbs up, click the like button. And if you want to know more about Vietnam and other travel adventures, then you can find this in this book. It's called Slamming It Out. I released it recently, and there are many more personal stories and other useful tips, tricks, and important information if you want to become a better and more experienced chef. I'm also very happy and very proud to finally announce that my first online course on Udemy now is released. I also put the link in the description. Check it out. If you are a leader, if you are leading small, medium-sized or large kitchen teams or any other teams, the course is not only for kitchen leaders, it's for any kind of leaders. Click the link below, enroll. I'm running very interesting promotions from time to time. If you really want to, if you are struggling with your team, if you want to build up more efficient teams, if you don't get along with your team members for various reasons, maybe it's because of you, maybe your leadership skills and abilities need to be polished up a little bit. So check it out. And with that being said, I'm checking out also for today. Thank you for watching my video. Stay safe, stay healthy, and don't forget, always keep slamming it out. Take care, bye bye.